folks, so what we're going to talk about today is the interactive element within Adobe XD. So when we're creating our prototypes for our websites, a lot of interaction takes place where you are going to have to link a page or a button or anything to specific places. And so what I'm going to do is actually show you how to do that. So I've taken our project that I had done for the wireframe option just to kind of like add a little bit more interactivity using this particular option. So I've went ahead and created a third page into this. I did a little bit of more of designing to that. So I didn't add anything else really other than just another page. But I want to go ahead and just kind of like show you how to go ahead and add some interactivity within this. So in XD, you're going to notice that up at the very top left, you're going to see where we are currently been working within design. And what we want to do is we want to kind of like add some interactivity within it, linking certain things to certain areas, where all of that takes place actually underneath the tab called Prototype. So when I choose Prototype, you'll notice it doesn't seem like anything really happened, except off to the right, your interaction just changed. This palette started to change here. Now, if you were working with each one of these pages, you want to be able to kind of like figure out, okay, what do I want to link, what do I want to link back, and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to choose maybe the second button that's here. When I choose that button, you'll notice that there is a blue button with an arrow that kind of like shows up next to it. That is basically your interactivity type of link. So what I can do with this, if I move my cursor onto that blue button, I can click, hold, and drag this over to this next artboard. And you can see that the artboard has been outlined with a blue outline. When I let go, you'll see that this whole thing snaps to it. That refers to that, okay, well, that link is going to connect to the other one. All right, so now certain other ones, like if I choose this one, you can do that same thing, but this time I want to link it to the third artboard. That's there. Now this first one usually is designated as a home, so I'm going to kind of like leave it as is. We don't want it to really go anywhere, but the second page, I do want to link it back to the first artboard. Same thing with this one. I'm going to link it back to this first artboard. And this particular one, I'm going to link back to here. And then this, I'm going to link it back to this artboard and go from there. So I have certain activity or interactivity going within each of these menu type buttons. Now I did not create 5 pages, so I'm not going to create the 5. Then I can work with the last 2 buttons there. Now, certain other areas you can designate as to where I have a certain link. If you look over here on the very right, you'll notice that there is a trigger. Right now it's set to tap, which is usually the default for clicking. All right, tapping is pretty much the same thing as clicking in a website. There's drag, and there's keys and game pads and stuff like that. If you want to do a voice interaction, you have that ability to do that. But most of the time, we're going to just choose tap for this one. Now, the action that takes place is set to where it says type. Right now, it's set to transition. You can have it auto animate to do some certain things. I would encourage you to play around with those. You can actually hyperlink it to a particular website if you want to. You can overlay, which basically means if I would have created an artboard that was maybe a little bit smaller, like for instance this header element. The header element that's in here basically could be set up as its own artboard and have that overlay each one of these pages. But again, it would kind of go away. We'd want to have it kind of like come back or pop back. So, and you could designate a certain button to go to the previous artboard, kind of like a going back button in this particular instance. You could have it audio playback or speech playback for certain things. So right now, a lot of things are going to just do a transition, but you can most definitely play around with animations. So you have animate, where it's basically can dissolve, slide left, slide right, which might be kind of cool. We'll go ahead and just choose slide left. And easing is how how it will start out fast and then ease slowly in. All right. Now you can designate a certain action. If you want to click that, you can have it do a certain thing. Like right now, it's set the audio playback, but right now I'm just going to say none for that. And then you could also designate that button to say it's fixed. It basically, when you start to scroll, that will stay in place, which is nice for, let's say, navigational elements. Navigational elements will basically allow you to, or usually stay in place as you're scrolling throughout the page. All right. So if I were to choose, like, let's say, for instance, this button here, and I said, okay, I want that to link to a certain page. So I would choose tab, or here, we'll do that. Oh, let's see. Yeah, we'll add that action per se and say tap. And then what we'll do is we'll choose interact or hyperlink. This is where you would actually add in your website, place you're going to. Let's say delta.edu, for instance, just like so. Okay. So that particular button will link to a certain page or a certain website that's separate from your prototype. All right. So now you've done some interaction here. You've linked certain things. You've linked certain buttons to certain artboards and so on and so forth. Now's the time to kind of like test it. And how do you test it? Well, up here in the very top corner, you'll find in the right side, you'll find that there is a little play button. If you click on that, it will launch this particular window as a separate window. So at that moment, you can go ahead and just kind of like play around with some of these buttons. If you notice, this one linked to the other page here. This one should link to the third page right there, just like so. You can scroll down, and then this one should link to the home page, where we also have this little button that should link to a hyperlink. And what that does is it will go ahead and show the Delta website. So it does kind of like show these particular elements as a prototype option. All right, so I'm going to close that window and go back here. All right, so that is interactivity. So what we want to do too is we want to go ahead and maybe like share this. All right, so if you right now, when you save this, it does go up into the Adobe Cloud, where you can actually, everything's kind of like interactive up there. And we might want to share this mostly with like me for this particular site. All right, so what we want to do is you're going to hit that tab that's named Share. All right, sharing here, you kind of have it as far as a link here. All right, and then for design review, you can choose that, or you can send it to as development, or you can share with a designer or share your design with a prototype with developers as a presentation, a user test, or custom. So we wanted to do as a design review, and the link access is anyone with the link. We want to choose that, and then we hit create link. Once that's developed, you have the link right here. And what we can do is we can click on that and say the link is copied. And then what you can do is launch any browser that you want, paste that in there, or in e-learning, when you submit the project, you can paste that link into e-learning. So you can kind of like, I can kind of go from there. All right. So pretty short lecture today. There's not much to that, but you're going to go ahead and set up as links or interactive elements within your design. Depending on whatever you want to link, you can link anything in your design, as well as it just kind of like works for that. All right, so I'm going to call that quits. So I will see you in the next video.